I was out for my dad for dinner, just the two of us, just me and him. And he's not by any means any like rugged guy or anything like that, but he's still my dad, and he only knows me as Mark, the guy. So we're sitting at the table, me and my dad, and the waitress is taking her order. And when she turns to me, she says, "And what will you have, man?" And my dad looked at me.
Marla has been dressing for decades and been on Instagram since March of 2001. Hanging out with her, I got to see the fun and energy she brings wherever she goes. Now come with me, and let's see how she manages to balance her two worlds.
Hello, welcome.
Hey, Marla.
Nice to see you guys.
Hey,
Hi.
great to see you. Oh,
Great
thank
to
you for
see you.
coming for this.
I'm so happy to be here.
Have a seat. Oh, so I love the tights. I love the boots.
Well,
talk about
thank
your
you.
outfit for a
Okay,
second. What did we got here?
So these, as you know, because you were there today, are from Last Chance.
Mm-hmm.
This was on my last week marathon where I went really early in the morning to beat the crowd and got 5 pairs of boots.
Nice.
So
I got 4 today.
Good stuff, baby. I like it. So anyways, I had this dress, which I hadn't worn in literally probably 3 or 4 years. And I thought when I was packing up, this is going to be perfect with these boots.
It does go so
This
good.
was meant for tonight.
Yes.
And I'm happy I can still fit into it.
And we're in Phoenix.
We are.
You're from Phoenix, right? This area?
Hell no.
Oh, no?
I'm a Canadian girl. Huh?
Oh, my gosh.
So you didn't even know that.
I didn't know that.
Yes, I'm actually.
Are you
born-
dual or are you...
Dual.
Dual?
I'm,
Okay.
Yeah, born in Montreal.
Nice.
Raised in Montreal and Toronto.
Okay.
And I came to school here in the States in the 90s, and I just stayed. So I've been here ever since for the good weather.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep.
So what are we drinking tonight?
Okay, so tonight we are drinking my favorite, yours already made, Coke Floats.
Everybody else see what she's doing here? This works.
Okay, as long as this doesn't explode, which it didn't. Yeah, so Coke Floats, and the reason is because I'm a huge, huge, huge ice cream girl.
We did do ice cream last night, didn't we?
Well,
Where was that? What was that place?
That was called Jenny's. But anyways, this here is my own personal creation at my favorite restaurant called the Sugar Bowl. And they don't have it on the menu. It's my own special one with Coke. And I've told them many times they need to name it after me or something.
The Marla.
Yes, the Marla. Perfect.
It's delicious. Thank you.
Pretty good. I hope you like mint.
Oh, yes. So, where did you start? What got you interested in women's clothing and when?
Sorry, I'm so focused on the ice cream. Well, funny you should ask. I was thinking about it in preparation for all of this, and the beginnings actually go way back, probably till about 7 years old. I remember I was at my friend's house, and he had an older sister, and she thought it would be fun to dress us both up. And of course, she did. Well, I remember specifically, she had dressed us up, and I was wearing these red tights. And I don't remember a lot of the details, but I do remember that when all was said and done, I took the tights home. We lived across the street, and I hid them in this box so my parents or nobody could find them, but I knew they would always be there. And it's an interesting thing because my family at the time was going through some kind of challenging hardships, and it was a very stressful time in my life. And I didn't understand what it meant, but when I would go and put those tights on, the world would just seem okay. It was almost like a form of escapism. And I think that that's probably the beginnings of everything, of course, without really knowing what it meant.
Right.
Just that it meant that everything was probably going to be okay. if I was wearing those tights? And I didn't really understand
Right,
what
right.
that meant at the time. But there's no question, like that's the very first thing that I remember it all about it. And then of course it definitely
Did
obviously more from there.
so some people stay with it, some people go in and out of it. How was your
Well,
teenage years, your adolescent years, your college
I would
years?
say I definitely zoomed in and out. I wasn't taking, well, I didn't really know what it meant to even take it seriously.
Right.
Like there was no such
Yeah,
thing as
we-
Marla. I mean,
we
most of us didn't.
We
didn't
had
really
no idea
understand
what was
it
going
meant.
on.
We just knew it felt good. We didn't really understand what it meant or anything. I do remember in high school or even early college, there would be times when my girlfriend at the time would go out or whatever, and I'd be in the apartment and I would sneak in and try her clothes on and just to see kind of how it felt or whatever, without really still understanding what it all meant. Like, why did it feel neat doing that? And what did I think, wow, this would be really cool. I'd really like to see how this goes. Like if I could just do the whole 9 yards without even knowing what that meant at the time. But it was definitely, an in and out thing. But, as you know, back in those days, there was no Google.
Right.
There was no internet. There was no support. There was no one to go to. And I remember literally, it never bothered me much. But then at one point, I really thought, what's the deal? I would see TV shows. And back then, there was the terms transvestite or transsexual. And there was, nothing in between.
Right.
There was no gender fluid. There was none of that. No binary. It was just you're a transsexual, you're a transvestite, and both of them are bad.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
according
for
to society,
whatever, yes.
they're both bad. So I remember going to the library and looking up the word transvestite. And back then you're using what were the systems called? Dewey
Decimal,
systems.
yes.
Yeah. Looking through books, hoping nobody sees why you're looking at these books. And I just remember reading about it. It's oh my God, that's me. That's me for whatever reason. I want to wear women's and girls' clothes. Don't really understand why, but finally there was a definition there.
Right.
And I've always
So the thing you found was more of a definition and not a story that had us in it.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
It was literally a definition, and I started to kind of understand what it meant. And I remember at the time not liking it, only because whenever you saw that word thrown around,
they were already negative
you
in
were
our
the
heads.
butt of somebody's joke,
Yep.
or somebody was going to try to arrest you, or you were just the black sheep of the family, So I was it was not a good thing. I mean, I wasn't happy about it. I was happy there was a definition, but I wasn't happy with the definition.
Right.
And understanding that could be me at the time. But luckily, I had good enough ego strength to try to overcome it. But it wasn't good. I mean, I just remember thinking that's not a good thing.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Oh, I
It's-
think
yeah.
we all know that feeling in our humble beginnings.
It was a much sadder world for anybody that had this
There's
idea or
no
this.
question. And plus, it's not just that. Not only were the times different, but of course, when you're young and you don't necessarily have the courage of your convictions yet, or understanding what it means.
And even if you do, you don't even know what you're talking about yet.
You don't even understand what that all means, and you don't know what to do with it.
Right.
So, here you are, you're sitting there with these definitions, you're doing what you're doing, you're not understanding why you're doing it, but you do know that the people that do it, at least in Hollywood and everywhere else, it's portrayed as a really bad thing, and you're like, what the fuck?
Right.
Where does it go from here? What does all this mean?
Well, what is wrong
and
with
is it a
me?
big deal?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's-
exactly.
So now we're here present day. You're
we are.
married, you're a dad,
Yep.
and
And I have a
you like
daughter,
to wear women's clothing.
And I
So
still wear women's clothing.
how do you balance all that?
Well, it was a long process to get to this point, but we can maybe talk about the details a lot later. But where it stands now is I've come to a very happy place in terms of finding myself and what's going to float my boat. About I would say 15 years ago, for a very, very, very short time, I went through a phase. I grew my hair out really long, so I have pretty good hair underneath this. I got my ears pierced. I started electrolysis, and I started hormones.
Oh,
and
wow.
I thought,
That 15 years ago.
about 15 years
So that's
ago.
way before
Right, before I
it
got married,
was
before I had the kid. And
all that stuff,
Yeah.
in
yeah.
vogue or whatever you want to call
Oh,
it.
exactly, yeah. And But I was never doing it to think that I wanted to transition. That's never been anything in my life that I
So
ever...
what took that's a lot. What
It is.
But
And,
Yeah.
and I know it's
Because
like,
I
why,
feel like
why,
I
why
feel
would
like
you
I'm
do
there. I feel like I'm right
Right.
there.
And the reason why I did it is I did a lot of research. Like, you know, I had a lot of friends in medicine, and I knew that I could take, like, just from research and what other doctors were telling me, that I could take certain hormones just to get to the point where, you know, I could, you know, make my skin a little smoother, make the electrolysis work a little bit better. And I just wanted to get to a point where I could, like, come home if I want and literally just walk into my bedroom, put on an outfit like this, and go out for the night. It would be literally as easy as that.
Right.
Like,
Instead
literally
of our
sit-
process.
Right. Instead of the process,
Right.
it's like a whole big to do with the shaving and the getting ready and like taking 10 hours to cover up your face properly and then being worried how you're going to look when you walk out the door. I thought anything that I could do to expedite the process and make it easier, what an amazing, efficient thing that would be if I could literally snap my fingers and zip in and out of girl mode. And it actually worked. But here's the flip side. The flip side is it worked a little too good, because what happened is I got so kind of feminized that my patients, I'm a dentist, by the way, my patients were actually making comments and saying, wow, you know, I thought you were one of the assistants. Not to sound sexist, but, you know, a lot of the girls are walking around with like long hair, and I never wore a ponytail. I wore a bandana around my head, and my hair was like really long. And
So you were a
slicked down.
long-haired dentist.
Yeah, very long. Yeah, I looked like a rocker dude.
Nice.
And so it was kind of rubbing me. I was happy about it because I said, wow, this is really working. But because I was in my compartmentalized male phase of life.
You were the guy when you were at the dentist.
Like I kind of thought to myself, well, that's not good. It's actually kind of making me feel not as strong in this office anymore. And and then what really topped it off for me, and I knew that like it wasn't I was going too far, is, and I think I might have alluded this to you earlier at some point, but I was out for my dad for dinner, just the two of us, just me and him. And he's not by any means any like rugged guy or anything like that, but you know, he's still my dad, and he only knows me as Mark, you know, the guy. So we're sitting at the table, me and my dad, and the waitress is taking her order. And when she turns to me, she says, "And what will you have, man?" And my dad looked at me, and he said, "Oh, don't. It's the long hair, you know. Like that's probably why she said it." But I just, you know, it was happening too much to me. And I also had season tickets for baseball. I'd go to the baseball games, and I'd get mammed all the time. And the reason why I didn't necessarily like it is I've become very compartmentalized in my life. And I realized that, okay, I have a girl's side, and that's completely separate. I close the door, lock it, put it away. And when I'm a girl, I'm a girl. And when I'm a guy, I'm a guy. And there's generally no mixing in between. Because I know there's a lot of people in the community like that are into, you know, the clothes maybe as a fetish or something, or maybe it's just a soothing thing. And they'll just wear like, you know, tights under their jeans in guy mode. Like, I'm not like that.
Right.
And that's absolutely not meant as a judgment. Like, everybody has their own story. I'm just talking about my story. So because I kept everything very compartmentalized, what should have been a good thing turned out not to be. It was a sign to me that I was going too far.
Right. The balance was out.
Yeah. God, I'm talking a lot. All right. I've got to get this loaded.
And so how often is Marla around? Is Marla around?
A lot.
So you're talking about that separation between the two. Family, do they know about Marla? Who knows about Marla?
Okay, yes. My wife knows about Marla.
Would you call it her supportive, or is she like, Or
I would say it's an ambivalence.
Okay.
But not for the reason most people have. She's an amazing girl. She's very open-minded. I think that there's a lot of things that I won't necessarily get into, just interpersonal things, that I think that, you know, she maybe feels that sometimes this might be taking the place of our relationship. And to be honest, in some respects, she's not wrong, because what I've ended up doing, and I don't think this has anything specifically to do with how I dress or my female presentation. I think it's my personality in general. I live inside my own head, and I tend to go about life like very unifocused. And like a lot of times, my wife will even point out sometimes when I refer to things, she'll say, "You're referring to things you're doing." She says, "No. How about we're doing it?" And it's just, I don't know what it is.
Right.
I'm not sure. It's like the chicken or the egg. I'm not sure if the whole Marla thing made me compartmentalize my life like that, or I naturally compartmentalize my life, so I just keep it separate. Like, I don't know the reason. but I think it's a personality thing, and not always a good one. Like it has consequences when you kind of separate things out all the time,
Yes.
and don't let intermingling, because sometimes people can feel like you're not letting them in either. And I don't mean to. I'm a very warm person, but it took me a long time to figure out that sometimes showing love is maybe showing your vulnerability, and I've never been good at showing a vulnerability ever.
Yeah,
it's still a struggle to do it.
We weren't raised that way.
Right.
That's something we've had to work for.
We do.
And I'm still working for it too. It's not easy.
Yeah, so there you go. Yeah, so like it's a work in progress, but I acknowledge it. Like I look in the mirror and I'm very well aware of it, and I hope to overcome it. Doing this is actually helping overcome it, because normally I would have never done this. I'm a very outgoing person, talky-wise, but never about myself. So this is an interesting.
No, this is
a leap for me, a big leap.
Well, good. Introvert, extroverts.
Yes.
So an introvert, extrovert is what?
Okay.
What are we talking about there?
So, for people that know me, now I'll look there. Some of you know me, and for most people that know me, they think I don't shut my mouth, and I'm very, very outgoing. And I can carry a conversation, and I can kind of be like a jokey person. And again, it doesn't matter, guy or girl. It makes no difference. I do that because I think it's a defense mechanism. I don't know any other way. But the truth of the matter is, if I had my druthers about me, I'm a very quiet, introspective person, and I'm most content really just doing my own thing. I'm very happy just doing a puzzle, reading a book. When me and my wife are invited to bar mitzvahs, weddings, things like that, it's a struggle for me to want to go. I don't like going with a bunch of strangers. The people that I love and that I'm comfortable with, I will go to the end of the world for, and I'll be around them all the time. And I love my family around, and aunts and uncles and cousins and close friends. But if there's going to be a lot of strangers, I don't really relish in doing that. And so the extroverted introvert thing comes into play, because a lot of people think that when I don't want to do things that I'm being selfish, because they think with my personality, you're so outgoing, why won't you come to my party? That's really shitty of you. But they don't realize it's a real stressor for me to have to do it, and it's a bummer to have to do it. But I do it, and then I play the game well, and they say, "So you had a great time?" No. It's like the Tears of the Clown. I can just play the game. I can fake it really well,
I'm going to go home and sleep for 20 hours now.
Yeah, exactly. Because I always feel I have to carry the conversation and just, kind of be the life of the party. And it's my fault. That's nobody's fault. That's just my own shtick that I put upon myself.
And that's not just in Marla mode. That's guy mode too. That's you in general.
Just me. The truth is, it's not as prevalent in the Marla mode, and the reason is because I didn't have much of a choice. Because the reality is, let's be honest, in my normal life hits you. You have a job, you have a career, you have a wife, you have your family, you have your friends. So you'll pick and choose of that lot what you want to partake in. But if we're doing this, if you don't externally and very specifically go out of your way to seek out friends and to put yourself out there, it will be a very lonely existence, and it can be very, very depressing. And I know that there's a lot of people that struggle,
right? And
I think that a lot of reasons that they struggle, it's not just a confidence thing, but they might have some of that going on too. They might think, oh wow, I'm looking at, what it's like. You look at Instagram or Facebook, and everybody is showing the very best of their lives. Yeah. I've got the best wife. I've got the best husband. I've got the best kids. I've got the best friends. We're traveling. We're having fun all the time. There's never a tear. It's always laughter. And people look at that and they think, well, and you're already insecure in this mode. So people think how am I ever going to get
I'm never going to get there, yes.
And I don't think they can see light at the end of the tunnel. So it becomes a very lonely existence.
So you've used the term transvestite and crossdresser.
Such an ugly word, isn't it?
What do you? I don't think it is.
Transvestite, I mean, not crossdresser.
I don't think either one is.
It's a V word.
I know, but
rub off the tongue.
My goal is to take back those words.
Oh, you want to own them?
Yes.
With a completely
different... Yes, like queer.
You want to change
queer.
The lexicon?
Queer has been taken back. I'm sorry.
Oh, I agree with you. Now it's a whole pride thing.
Yes.
I agree with you.
Yes, I think for transvestite and crossdresser, they shouldn't be dirty words. They might reflect a time
I agree.
about what was done, and maybe there's going to be some better language
Right.
coming on. But I don't think
Well,
there's.
there already
I
is.
don't think there should be dirty words.
No, no.
I don't think we should feel
I
bad
don't
about
say,
saying them.
I don't say it for that reason. I just think it's like an ugly sounding word. There's certain languages that just it doesn't rub off the tongue
So
very
what
nice.
would you call Marla right now, with the best language we have going on right now?
A rugged football player.
Oh,
Can't you tell? What? That's not obvious. I'm like a tight end. What are you talking about?
what are we talking? Well, what are we
What
talking
are we
about now?
What are we talking about? I would say, and I've thought about it a lot. I think the best description of me right now would probably be gender fluid, because I've achieved the point where I pretty much, I do what my goal was, which was just to be able to zip in and out of, girl and guy mode, which I can do with, pretty much ease. Like I have a very flexible schedule right now, and so I can usually. If I wanted to, I could probably do this 3 or 4 days a week in the daytime. My nights are with family. Once my daughter's off at school, I do a lot
The
of
day
work
is
from home
yours.
right now. I'm free. Yeah, and I can just make an active decision. And sometimes I'll get up and I'll say, okay, you know what, this is a day that maybe I'm in the mood to be dressed, but I don't want to go out. So I'll
Right.
just get dressed and do what we do. Snap 9,000 pictures and pretend I'm getting work done, but
Right.
and maybe Zoom somebody or whatever, just so I feel okay. The mode's not being wasted. I'm talking to somebody at least, or I'll actually go out, go shopping, do whatever. And sometimes I'll just say, oh, you know what, I'm not in the mood. And that was a hard thing too at the beginning, when I felt that I had time and I didn't take advantage of this. I was almost like not beating myself up, because I typically don't do that, but I always thought to myself, God, why am I wasting this time? Like, why isn't that
Right.
feeling there now?
Right.
This is the time I'm alone
know.
for 4 days. Like, why do I just want to eat pizza and watch football games
know.
and not slap on a cute dress and heels, And it took a while to because that used to piss me off.
Well, that's one of the hard parts about me and her schedule our time, because we have to do it when we're trying to do it when she's off work, the kids are in school,
Right.
and then we'll have some time. But the day comes, it's there, and 3/4 of the time, the reason we don't do it is because I'm just not. I don't have the energy. I don't want. It's not something I need to do.
Yeah.
Even though I put that space in there, we built the time for it. It's just like, oh no.
I know.
I just
And
want
isn't
to. I
it
just want to
funny?
do nothing.
But what's ironic about that whole thing too, though, of course, as you know, because through Instagram and so many people that we know, is that there's people that would die to have that time.
I
They're like,
know.
oh my God, you have 4
And the
days you're not-
support.
and we right, and
Right.
we have everything in the world that we
I
want
know.
if we just want to grab it. And it's unfathomable to some people that we don't always want to grab it. But clearly, obviously you're the same way, and I don't always want to grab it.
Yeah, and that's confusing to me.
Yeah, it is. There's no question, still. But the difference now, even though it's kind of confusing, is I accept it. I know it's going to happen. I know that there's a day that I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be so excited to do this. And I also know there's a day I'm going to go to sleep and I'm like, I'm going to forget about it for 7 or 10 days. And I'm just going to go to a bunch of Phoenix Suns games and eat pizza and just not worry about anything and not worry about working out and worrying about how I look in a dress and worrying
Right.
how I look in makeup. And then when I'm back into it again, I'll get into my routines and do what I have to do for the girl mode. And but I would say there's a comfort zone with it now, though. As I accept it, it doesn't bother me as much. I still wonder why would that be, that sometimes I want to do this and sometimes I don't. I don't know. But it is what it is. I think there's some degree of just finding your sweet spot,
Right.
and knowing what it is for yourself. And I think that's what gets you ultimately to a happy place in this whole spectrum of, and God knows the spectrum is so big, from people that are fetishists up to people that zone in and out like us, literally to people that are, completely transitioned and living their lives. So I can only speak for myself in my situation. But I think I've hit the sweet spot now in terms of the way my life is now. It might have been different 20 years ago. If the world was this way 20 years ago, maybe I'd be thinking very differently. I know it's hard to say.
Yeah, yeah.
Who can? I'm sure you can. Who can really say?
Right.
Can't look back. It's hard.
So we know each other from Instagram.
We do.
Where did you start on Instagram? Where did you what?
Okay, so
What got you out into the public world? First of all, what got you to go out in the public world with pictures or with however you were doing it? What
Okay,
was?
so long before I was, well, it's kind of a reverse thing. I've been in the public world, the real world, forever, like over 25 years.
Right, as dressing.
As Marla, yeah, out and about, like pretty comfortably in mainstream, like 90% just by myself when I go and do things. So I've been out. I was on Flickr. Somebody mentioned Flickr to me, one of my girlfriends here in Phoenix from like, oh, it's got to be like more than 15 years ago. So I ended up on Flickr, met some people through that, and that kind of led to, you know, people knowing who I am. And, you know, when I was on there, you could say, oh, yeah, sometimes I travel to LA, or I'm from Toronto originally, I go back. So I ended up having some really good friends in Los Angeles and Toronto.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so when I would go, so Flickr for me, it's not interactive in the sense of how Instagram is, because Instagram actually has a chat.
Right.
Flickr doesn't. You have to go to your way to mail people. and even back then, you could barely even do that properly. It was really, really challenging. So, but it's amazing that the Flickr community turned out to be a really, really good community. But
did you get a lot of negativity on there, or was it all good stuff?
Almost. I mean, it was instant. And I mean,
and
to be honest with you, like, it was kind of, you know, I mean, you know what it's like. It's a nice ego boost. You know, you have all these strangers suddenly seeking out your pictures and like writing all these nice things about you. And you got great legs and blah, blah, blah. I want to marry you. And, you know, half of it is bullshit, of course. But it doesn't matter, because at that point in time, when you're just kind of like throwing yourself out there and not like, I was out in the world, but I had no clue what other people thought. Like, how do you really know? Then suddenly people see your picture and they suddenly are writing all these nice things about you. So if nothing else, it was a nice confidence boost. And it kind of synergized the whole experience for me. Like, it made it a lot more positive, which was a good thing.
Because you get that rush looking at yourself.
Yeah, totally.
But
of course,
after you're done looking at yourself taking pictures, it's kind of, but then you're getting all this.
Yeah, but not only that,
add on.
But you also wonder, like, well, I mean, I know everybody wonders, but no matter what level you're at, there's people that wonder, like, okay, they're so wondrous that it'll prevent them from walking out the door, because they're like, it's not just wonder, it's anxiety and fear, like, oh my God, what are people thinking about me? And then you develop a comfort zone and you get out, and the more you go out, the easier it becomes. And then you start to wonder, okay, do they know? And then once you feel fairly confident, do they know or not, you realize, does it really even matter that they know? Then you just think, okay, how do I look?
Right.
And I'm at the point now where who knows, like, what people think one way or the other. But one thing I hope that's resonating out there is I just want to, like, feel that I look good. You know, because you can't control what other people are going to think. It's impossible.
And where did Marla come from? The name.
Oh,
was that your first girlfriend in high school? What was it? What's Marla?
Actually, it's interesting. It was one of my girlfriends in high school.
Oh, I was just guessing.
I know, but that's not it. So what happened was, years ago, I went to dental school in Boston. And there's this bar called Jacques. And for people that are older, if there's any older people out there, older meaning like in your late 40s or at least 50s, there was this place called Jacques. And it was in the south end of Boston. And that's where my little apartment was. Me and my dog lived there. And it was one of those old school cross-dressing bars where they would have drag performers. And there's nothing wrong with any of that. But it was just wrought with prostitution. Like, when I would walk my dog around the block, you would see all these girls. And by girls, I mean like girls like us. Right. You know, soliciting themselves and everything. Well, anyways, I was hard up for money. And I thought to myself, well, you know what? Maybe if I just go in there and literally say, I'll work for free. Just whatever tips you get. I had nothing to lose. And I figured maybe it's a chance to, like, see what's going on with this, you know, with this whole cross-dressing thing going on over there. Because this whole Marla thing wasn't yet created. And I went there as a guy when I did that. But the girl behind the desk that interviewed me was someone that had already transitioned. So she says, okay, yeah, you know, we'll give it a try, blah, blah, blah. So I got really, really bold. And I remember going to Filene's basement, walking there in this big snowstorm. And I bought my first full girl's outfit. And I said, you know what, I'm going to show up the next day as a girl. I'm going to waitress instead of be a waiter.
Right.
And I never even waited in my life. So the very first night I did, and she looked and said, oh, wow. And I have pictures of that night still. Oh God, what a sight for sore eyes. It was ugly.
Oh,
it was I went to one of the stores they're better now when the wigs were like curly and like all the way up to here. And it looked like, the hair that was off of a horse or something, or off of a sheep. You know what I mean? It was like, here I am thinking, wow, I'm really feeling it. Like looking back now, it was so bad.
Right.
But anyways, so I did that, and so I'm serving the drinks or whatever, and it's everyone's getting like drunk out of their ass and whatever, and all the girls are on stage performing. They're pretty awesome. So at one point, I'm just going to pull these drinks to pull to a table, and they're on the stage, and one of the girls on the stage starts saying, the performers, remember everybody, make sure you tip these girls. They're students. They're surviving on this. And she looks down and she whispers quickly, honey, what's your name? And of course, I had no name.
Oh, no, you hadn't even thought about it.
Right? Well, the natural thing, because of what my natural name is, it starts with an M and ends with a K. I said, Marla? In a really meek voice. She said, you make sure you help Marla out. She's just starting off here and blah, blah, blah. And boom, Marla was created.
And that was Marla.
And that was pretty fun.
But it held on. That was it.
All these years.
Nice.
I mean, yeah. Isn't that something? It's an interesting thing. It held on all these years.
Oh, so she has a special place in your heart. That old girlfriend. Somehow,
Yeah,
somewhere, her name popped up.
That Marla does. She's a nice girl. She was pretty cool.
So, Daddy's going to come here and ask you a question, and then you can ask her a question, and then I'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more. Sound good?
Sounds
I'm going to go eat some more of this.
Oh, you get to finish your float. You lucky
Yes.
dog.
Well, hello.
Well,
And thank you so
hello,
much
Daddy.
for doing this.
Small world seeing you again.
Right? So, my question, we come straight there. So,
Ooh,
how
should
was?
I be sitting down? Oh, I am sitting down. I am
So,
sitting down.
how was the first time going to that beautiful store that you show us today? That I think everyone should.
Oh my God.
Everyone
yeah.
should go there at least once
Girl,
to
you're
experience
talking
that.
last chance, huh?
Yes, absolutely, yes. Yes.
Well, so the first time I went there was as a guy.
Okay.
And my whole family is shoppers. My mother, my father, my brother, like everybody's very into clothes. And so before I lived here, when we would visit Phoenix, so going back like over 25 years now, everybody would say, oh, you got to check out this place Last Chance. It's a great thing for clothes. So we would always go to Last Chance or whatever. Well, once I started to, do all of this, by the time I got to Phoenix, actually, I was already doing this pretty regularly. But after a few times, going as a guy and whatever, the first chance that I had, I was very excited to go. And the first time I went as a guy, just to buy.
Goodness, just to see
just to see like what's going on.
over
and
there.
I would take some of the dresses, out of the guys' change room and try them on or whatever.
Okay.
And then I realized that it's time to just, bite the bullet.
Do it again.
And so I started to get a lot of shopping done in girl mode, and that was then, and it still is now.
It's a
Like,
beautiful place.
these
I
boots.
will. Oh my
These
gosh.
boots are from there, and the boots I was wearing earlier today
Girl,
are from
I'm
there too.
telling you,
So, yeah.
everyone should go there at least once there because it's beautiful, but you have to go with time
Okay,
because
yeah.
it's
And be forewarned, you have to be ready to fight people off.
but
Because and today was think how many hours we were there.
Oh, yeah.
And it wasn't even a busy day. We went during the middle of the day on a
Okay,
Tuesday,
okay,
when
yeah.
nobody's around. But on the weekends, they have signs up sometimes.
oh goodness.
And like lines to let people in. And there are times they have signs up about making sure you're respectful to other people.
Okay,
And you
yeah,
can't be
yeah.
rude to
I
people.
see.
Because I've seen fights.
Yeah,
Not fist fights,
we were,
but
yeah.
I've seen women argue over grabbing something when the stock first comes out.
Oh, goodness.
Literally grabbing things off the
Oh,
rack.
that's
So
awesome.
it
Ooh,
gets very,
that's interesting.
it can be interesting.
I would love to go there when that happens.
Girl,
but
you always
yeah,
wanted to fight.
It was a beautiful experience. Thank you
I'm
so
glad
much
you
for
guys
that.
liked it.
Oh my
I'm so
gosh,
happy about
I
that.
was in
That's great.
heaven. I was in heaven. I was like, I went straight for the shoes because I'm a crazy shoe lover.
And how many shoes did you get, Daddy?
Not enough.
One, right? One pair? You had a pretty big card, if one I can recall.
Well,
it was a pretty full card.
I would say less than 10. Okay, less than 10. we can just leave it there.
And they were
So,
making
yeah.
fun of me for getting 5. Because I got
Wow.
5 last week. You know.
Well, listen, but you live here and you have it in here, so you know,
That's true.
like,
I haven't been in a while.
you know, but yeah, but that's a good thing. Like, thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
I'm
And
so glad.
it's a really good experience. Like, I will say yes, please do it for sure.
Alright.
Okay, so now a question for me.
Alright. I got a real interesting question for you. So think back. You're probably 19 now? 20?
Yeah, less than.
Okay. So way back when you
Way
were
less than 40 something.
11 years old and you're dreaming as girls do about their future, finding this rugged, handsome, tall, dark, handsome husband. Could you have ever imagined that your life would be, it's not necessarily married, you know, to Olive and what she does,
Yeah.
but the fact that you personally are such an integral part of the community, and not just in supporting her, but in all of us. And it's an amazing, amazing gift what you are giving everybody, including
Oh,
me.
thank you,
And it
thank
does.
you.
I've been out forever, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't go unnoticed. And I know, like, you've got a jam. You know you've got a jam. But seriously, like, I'm curious how that morphed for you. That's,
Well,
you know.
since young, I was never, you know, like living in a cube, like just not, and for me, it was like, I was never, ever in 1,000 years thought that I will marry anyone. I thought that I was gonna be the rich auntie that comes from vacations from somewhere and bring presents and, you know, travel all around the world, and just be happy and enjoying life and stuff like that. But then,
You've got the right attitude. And you beat the odds. Forget
I
marrying
did.
someone white. You got the creme de la creme.
I
Honey, you broke a lot of barriers in one shot. Where you,
think so. I think
That's
I
pretty
got
amazing.
blessed. And then,
you both are. It's
my
a good
goodness,
one,
it has been an adventure since we got together, and I couldn't ask for better.
yeah. That's so nice.
Yes, I'm very happy for it. So,
And
yeah.
we're very happy for both of you.
you know, we tried
And
our
it's-
best.
You do. And a very good job. I
Oh,
have to
thank
say.
you.
But we're
thank
very
you.
grateful.
Well, thank you so much, and I will.
You're
let
sitting
you
back
know
to
it.
spot.
Yes.
Did you have your float?
I did. Yes,
Oh,
I had.
good. Did you
Thank
like it?
you. I absolutely loved it.
Awesome.
So,
You again?
it's me again. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we move in and wrap this up? I think we hit on most things that were on your
hit it
list.
pretty, we don't want to bore people too much. How much can people hear about me?
Well, a lot of what you're talking about, they have connections to.
There's no question.
Yes.
There's a lot of similarities. I've seen so many of your interviews, and we're all vastly different, yet there's so many bonds and threads that hold us all together. It's quite remarkable, really.
It is. It's crazy.
Like one thing I will say that I often think about, and I think about this with other things too, because like I play Scrabble, I do crosswords. You have so many hobbies. You go to Phoenix Suns games, like I have season tickets for that, and you say to yourself, I used to do this with Scrabble all the time, like in tournaments, and you spend so much time with people, and you realize like, but for the Scrabble itself, we were all so different. Like we would have nothing in common, it seems. But that one thing would bind us all together, and I would spend a huge part of my life with these people.
Right,
in
just from that
tournaments,
one thing.
going across the country playing tournaments, and you see the same people, and you get to know their families and everything, and we're vastly different. And it's very similar here. Like, if not for us both wearing dresses, might anything on the internet have pulled us together?
Right.
Probably not. Yet it did, and like you instantly. And we see it all the time. You get that warmth, you get that connection, and you feel it. Like you can't put it in words. You know that you know that it's there. You feel the sisterhood.
Yes.
And it's an amazing, like that always amazes me. So I look at all of this, and I know that there's a lot of people out there that are feeling very victimized right now, and I'm not ever comfortable with the victim role. But the truth is, like just out in the world, like the whole idea of transgenderism. half the country thinking that there's some agenda going on and things like that. It's making a lot of people that maybe don't have the security that we have in our own skin right now, and it's probably making people very, very depressed and very, very anxious. But the way I see it is the world is so different now, and the fact that you and I just sitting, thousands of miles apart over a quick conversation on the internet are sitting here, and now we'll probably be friends for life. I mean, that's inspiring, and I hope it inspires people that are listening to know that it's just literally one DM away, or one quick having the guts to maybe have a conversation with someone and think, well, maybe they'll never respond to me. They're confident, they're doing all these things. But if anyone's listening, we will. You already know Olive does.
All the time.
Olive and Daddy do. I will too. I mean, if there's anybody that ever needs help or an ear, it's just paying it forward.
Right.
That's all.
Beautiful.
Peace and love.
You.
That's what we want.
That's
Peace
all
and
we
love.
want. That's our agenda.
That's it.
Fucking
That's our
peace
agenda.
and love.
It's better than that. It's the only thing that matters.
So, we haven't heard a lot of negativity on your journey, but let's say you get on the elevator, click to go down, doors are closing,
What you're gonna say.
big hairy hand comes in. Hey! Guy busts through there, gets on the elevator with you. You start to go down a little bit and it stops. Lights flicker, go out for a minute, come back on. Over the intercom, they're like, y'all got 6 hours. And that guy turns and looks at you and he goes,
Damn, you're
oh shit, and I'm stuck with you. So he's clocked you. He sees you as something that he doesn't like. He's giving you transphobic vibes. But you're going to be with this guy for 6 hours in a small space. Are you going to talk to him? Are you going to stay away from him? What do you think you could say to this guy? What's...
I knew this was coming.
This is the I'll always do this question.
I knew this one was coming, and I'm ready for it. Because I think, you watch the interviews, and
Right.
you always
Well,
wonder, like,
but
what would you
everybody's
do?
thinking about this all the time.
Of course they
especially
are.
when
Yes.
we first start.
Because it's real life.
Yes.
Yes. No, I mean, it's like, it happens all the time.
This keeps people from doing a lot of
And
stuff,
course
the
it
thought
does.
of this.
And the only difference between us and the people that are thinking and not doing it is we're just out there not giving a shit now, but who knows? They might still be thinking of it. We just don't pay attention to the difference anymore because we're doing what we're doing. But, my take on that's a little different than a lot of people. And one thing I will say is if I'm stuck in an elevator and forget even the whole Marla thing. Like, let's say I'm stuck in the elevator and I'm wearing a cowboy shirt and there's a really nasty Philadelphia Eagles fan in there. And he's very serious. And I know people will say, oh, come on, this is a life and death thing. Somebody might want to kill you if you're transgender. They're not going to want to kill you if you're a Cowboys fan. But the concept is still the same. Am I really going to change someone else's mind? They believe what they're going to believe. That's what I believe. So there's a worldview. Is it my job, me personally, to take a hater out there and make them think that someone like me is okay? Probably not any more than them having the real heartfelt belief that what I'm doing is wrong, and they're not. Maybe they think that they should be lecturing me, maybe for whatever reason. Like, maybe it's religious purposes. Who knows what the reasons are. But people are fixed in their beliefs for whatever reason. So my approach to that whole thing is, would I like him to ultimately realize that this is not a bad thing and it's a quite innocuous thing? Of course. But the way I think that you get there is, it's like a little thing in coaching where people say the best way to communicate with someone and get your messages across is to meet them where they're at, not where you're at. Because if we meet them where we're at, it's going to be perceived from that person as we're lecturing them. And I know that when I'm lectured, I know this because I'm a 10-year-old, when anybody feels lectured, you just automatically put your foot down and you close the door.
You are not taking
You're
information
done.
in.
So for me to sit and say, hey, come on, I would never hurt you. What's your problem with me? I just want to exist, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be white noise. Right? So the way I approach that is like I approach everything in life, whether it's a Marla issue with my 10-year-old daughter, an issue with my business, like whatever it is. I kind of like try to meet the situation where it's at and find out how can I be most effective. So in a case like that, let's say he walks in and he's wearing a Grateful Dead shirt. First thing I'd say is, wow, that's a really cool shirt. First time I saw them was in 1987. Who knows? Maybe he looks at me and still thinks I'm an idiot. Or maybe it breaks the ice and he starts talking about the Grateful Dead, right? And then through that, through having other conversations, it might just work that he says, you know what, whatever that person was, they weren't really that bad. And I think you can accomplish that without even having to mention the fact that
Exactly. Yes.
you're pissing me off and you have no right to judge me. Because in doing that, we're judging ourselves. You know, like we're being judgmental.
Yep.
I do believe everyone has a right to believe what they want to believe. So I don't want to change his mind. But if I can meet him where he's at, and then we can have a meeting of the minds through other issues, boom. Then you realize, wow, that chick's pretty cool. He probably won't call me a chick though. Or maybe he will. Maybe there's some repression going on. You never know.
Right. No,
That's my
I believe
take.
there's a lot of validity in the statement
That's my
to
take.
find them where they
and
are.
to be honest with you, just as an aside for all of this, like, you know, everything is so politicized nowadays, and, you know, it sucks. Like, it takes a lot of the fun out of a lot of things because everything is so politicized, and everybody always feels that, and social media has done this, everybody feels like they have to prove that their point of view is right, and it's so easy to do online where you can hide behind, you know, the letter X and not show who you are, and you can, like, people will say things online that they would never say to your face.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I just, you know, I gave up on that a long time ago. Life's too short. I just want to live in the moment. It's all about love and joy and have a good time. And if people disapprove, that's okay. I'm happy with myself. That's all that matters. And as long as they're happy with, you know, I want other people to be happy for themselves too. And that's it. That's my take.
So what would you then say to somebody starting all this? What's one piece of advice you would give to somebody starting on this? It could be a young Marla, before you knew you were Marla. It could be somebody just beginning with this.
Yeah, you know, a few quick things. I mean, like, the world is different now. That's number one. So the first thing I would say is, like, get some support. You know, go on Instagram, go on Flickr, go, you know, whatever your Reddit, wherever people go. I'm not on a ton of things, but I'm on a few things. But I'm out there living my life. But if people realize the support is there, I think that that's a really, really, really huge thing.
Right.
And
Find a piece of that community.
oh yeah, there's no question, because all it is just one quick question to somebody that's done it before. It's like, you know, if you go to the gym and you're working out, you want to go to the person that looks like the most fit person out there, that also looks like, you watch them and you say, hey, I think I can kind of do what they do, and you strike up a conversation with them and you say, wow, if I do all the steps they want to do, that they do, I can look like that too. Or if you're trying to get into medical school and you go to your guidance counselor and says, very easy, just take this class, and this class, make sure you keep your grades up, and then you'll have the ability to apply to medical school. It's just following a system.
Right.
So it's the same thing here, but, you know, it's just a big Ethernet out there of the world, and people don't know where to turn. They get overwhelmed. And the only other thing that I would say is, and this is more for the people, I mean, anybody watching this is obviously probably doing what we're doing for the most part. And if people haven't been out in the world, I would say to them that the paranoia factor of being scared going out into the world and that everybody's clocking you and worrying about you, I would posit that nobody gives a shit about what you're doing. We are so consumed with our own lives. Nobody knows. Years ago, I did an experiment on that for myself. The first few times I would go out, I'd be so paranoid, like, oh my God, you pull up at a red light in a car, everybody, of course, is staring at you. But what I realized is if you pull up to a red light and you're sitting in a car, nowadays it's different because people have cell phones. There was no cell phones back then. So you pull up at a red light, and I realized, even if I'm in guy mode, it's just natural. People look to the left, they look to the right, like they're looking around. They're not looking at you because they're clocking you or they're judging you. They're just doing what we do, but we're so paranoid and so focused that we think like there's laser beams on us when we're out in the real world. And it's
Right.
not, you know, that people are living their lives. How do I know? Because we're living our lives. When we're out there, are you really staring at every single person that walks? Like, we're not, you
Right.
know? So I would say, like, I think that would be a huge anxiety relief for a lot of people, and it would make people maybe take that step. And then, of course, that one step can, like, be the difference between having a very happy life versus, you know, very depressed and anxiety ridden over this.
Right.
Because once you do that, I mean, it can catapult into amazing things. And the most important, of course, is just inner peace. But it always starts with a step, one step. Got to take the first step.
Yep. All right.
There you
and one question for me, and we'll wrap it up.
All right. So I have a non-emotional written question. So you've been doing this. How long have you been doing this now? Like
Dressing?
Yeah. Like, well, as Olive,
As,
seriously.
as,
I mean,
as
like,
Olive, seriously, I would say probably late 2019.
okay.
That was when I discovered that I could be cute in a Snapchat filter.
Right. Okay. All right. So with that said, then, so you've been doing it for a little while. Have you ever considered, like I tried the hormone thing for a while ago. Have you gone down that route in the past, or would you consider it? And also any surgical interventions at all? Is that something
Right.
you've ever thought of, or are
Oh,
you
yeah. Well, all the time.
comfortable in the mode I'm in?
No, I think about hormones all the time. I think about because I'm still trying to find where my sweet spot is.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where I'm the happiest and where I can get the most out of this side of my life and this side of my life. And even though those two sides are moving together faster and they overlap so much more now, it's just you still want to find that peace, and you want to find. And yeah, I'm lazy, so yeah, I'd love not to have to shave.
And I want tits.
My wife actually wants me to get breast augmentation.
You mean those aren't real? Holy shit. Seriously? Damn, girl. I had no idea.
But it's and I don't know. I'm seriously considering starting estrogen.
Right.
But the timeline for me right now is 1 to 2 years. It's somewhere in that time frame. I'm thinking strongly about trying that and seeing how that affects me. I've thought about getting an auric.
Yeah, that big long word.
My ball is removed. We've got all the kids we need.
Yep.
Orachectomy.
Something like that. But we have all the kids we need. We have, and they.
Different interactions now as a couple.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
more,
yeah.
we
It's the
experience
same for me,
different-
of course.
Yeah.
Just because
We're just doing different stuff, and
Absolutely.
and to me that would be, I'd remove the chance of ball cancer later on. It would, I don't know. I would be interested to see. I'm still reading up on all the pros and cons and trying to educate myself. So I'm less inclined for that one.
Right. All right. So
But
it's
that's
an interesting thought process.
yeah.
though.
It's I don't know. Obviously, the least invasive is to do estrogen, because you can always stop that, and you can always go back to
Yeah,
to whatever you were doing before. Because I'm really curious to see how that would affect me, and would I feel better? Would it make me happier? As we're trying to find these spots about what makes us, because I was never expecting this to bring me such joy, but it does.
I know that's a fun surprise.
But it brings me so much joy.
It's
just joy.
It is.
And I don't know, like before I didn't know that joy was available. And so I don't know if with hormone therapy I'll be more joyous. I don't know, because I don't know. So I'm tempted. It's like I said, probably in a year I'll make a decision one way or another.
There's nothing wrong with striving for good old fashioned euphoria.
Yeah, yeah.
Why not?
Too much is too much, but
I can handle a little euphoria.
right. So
if you get it, send some my way.
I don't know. I always think about it. I'm always trying to think about everything. I'm always trying to weigh things. I use my meditation time as my runs. I think of like 90% of this show I thought about it on a run. I'm thinking of the things I can do for the community, because it's meaning a lot to me, and it's just my idea. It's just these little things come.
To all of us.
These little things just come up, and
No question.
Oh,
It means a lot. Well, we are sad. I mean, I wouldn't be sitting here right now with you specifically.
Right.
If not, you know what I mean? If not for this. I mean, it's interesting because, like, even though I've been out and about, it doesn't matter. Like, this is very therapeutic for me. It was a big leap for me.
Well,
Like
And
just to talk about it. I mean,
everybody,
not being out,
not
to
just
talk
not just
about it.
cross dressers.
How can we
Everybody.
talk about it.
I think everybody needs to have some of their story heard by people,
No, I agree with
because
you.
we're all important in some aspect of a
No
life.
question. And the amount of people it can help.
Yes,
That's
it's
unparalleled.
so I don't know. This is so yeah.
I like it.
Someday, probably,
All
we'll
right.
see.
You'll keep me posted.
Yes, I'll keep everybody posted.
I think we'll all know. You're an easy person to keep the contact.
All right. Well, it's been awesome.
Oh, so much fun.
Thank you so much, Marla, for making
That was great, Olive. And Daddy.
Thank you.
Bye.
Love you all.
Love you too.
Bye-bye.
Love y'all.
Mwah.